Anyone on?
This is the meeting of May 21st, 11:05 in the morning. Infrastructure, Town Council Infrastructure to the subcommittee. Okay,
How are you doing?
what's yours, Tyler?
Thanks. Well, you noticed, right? So I'm joined by two gentlemen, my high school interns for the next 3 weeks or so. So this is Kojo, this is Hudson. Kojo's gonna go to NCC, study engineering there.
Congratulations.
Right, some mechanical engineering, and then Hudson's going to Colby, studying mechanical engineering as well. So they get to mirror me for about the next 3 weeks. So we take them to pretty much everything, and then we debrief after. We give them a little bit of what we're going to talk about prior, and then we debrief after, just to kind of put context to questions and stuff. So they've been out and around. We went out today to look at we went and looked at Coppo Field this morning. They went to a land use meeting first, which was all about land use, everything that's happening in town as far as permitting and stuff like that. And then we went to Capo, looked at Capo, and then we had to go out and determine whether or not a sight line was adequate on Northfield Road.
Oh, where?
It's just right on the intersection of Northfield and Michigan. And then we went to see the paving at 120 on Route 123 that the state's doing up by the state line. Prepared that with our projects and our paving, and then get back down again and looked at the pump outs on Elm Street that are now done. So the pump outs are done, and we're back in here to talk to you guys. So yeah.
I think it's so great you're doing this as your internship. It's really value added. Like it's a great way to spend your. Yeah.
They get kind of the twofold things, because they get a look at their town, the town government that runs it, and then they get to see the infrastructure part of it and the engineering part of it, so they can learn for later, so. Yeah, so we went over the Millport sidewalks this morning, as far as we had some questions about catch basin placement, drainage, and manhole, stuff like that, how we were attacking it. And we were out in the field yesterday looking at it, and then we came back in and reviewed the plans again this morning, so they can get a kind of a real world look at, okay, here's the plans, this is what I'm looking at, I gotta go out in the field and I gotta build it. And then what are the problems, the ramifications when I go to build it, what do I run into when we're out there, so. I think it's pretty cool. I would have liked it if I could have learned about my town in that, well, they didn't have internships, but I was, I had no idea.
Could you give me your name so I can put it in the minutes?
I'm Hudson,
Hudson.
yes.
And what's your last name?
Penny?
Kenny?
Yes,
Kenny?
KNY. Yes.
Okay, but my middle name,
Everything you want.
Kojo,
How do you spell it?
Kojo,
Okay,
and Echampo, ACHEAMPONG.
I'm glad you spelled it. What's your middle name?
Kojo.
Kojo? Instead of, okay, that's it. Okay, got it.
It's fine.
It's all good, don't worry about it. Sometimes you get the first name that you, it's all girl.
Thank you.
Yeah, that's all right, it's whatever people call you, the
So the first,
well, so I looked at the agenda, we have a little bit on capital projects for you, and most of it's, old data, because I wasn't able to put anything together. For the meeting, but I did put together, so this is fiscal 25 and the status of fiscal 25 projects. So, and then. Then I gave out one to these guys, I gave out basically our fiscal 26 budget, which is really, the money's just kind of rolled in. But that's our fiscal 26, all the departments. But the money, as you know, just came available probably a week or so ago, 2 weeks ago, after you guys approved it in late April, and then it had to be posted and what have you. So we're just starting fiscal 26 expenditures now. So we ordered the large vehicle, the Vector, the sewer, the generator, the combination generator vehicle that we had. So we ordered that. That's an 8-month lead time on that. Before we get that, we're hoping to get it a little bit shorter. We're hoping to get it in November, but we'll see how that goes. And then the rest, we don't have much more equipment to purchase at present. We're looking at putting in a new building at the highway department, taking down the existing metal storage building. And right now we're gathering quotes to for the demo of it, and then and go out to bid for the installation.
Where's the swap shop going?
Swap shop, no, the swap shop's that this is the gray metal building down below by the wastewater plant. It's a
Oh,
storage
it's-
facility for the
You reached
for
the
the highway.
shredding thing down there?
Yeah, you were close to it, so if you came in shred day for
I looked through something because it was raining, is that the building?
yeah, you came through the highway department.
Yes.
That's, and then as you drove back out and you drove past the gas pumps.
Mhm.
And then there was a gray building on your left hand side, that gray building is past its useful life, and so that's being replaced. The swap shop up top, and the transfer station is staying exactly where it is, it's right at for right now. The only thing we did on that building is we removed the stack, one of the stacks that was on top of the incinerator was very much rotted, so it needed to come down, and that came down the other day, it came down on Monday. So just because we're afraid eventually it was just gonna fall and then fall through the roof and fall into the building, so we needed to get it out of there.
So the building below is not supporting the swap shop part?
So where swap shop sits is actually on solid
On ground.
ground,
Okay, got it.
Past that
Yeah.
is where the chute was for the ash from the incinerator.
Okay,
And that is actually supported by
the one below.
one below.
Okay.
Right, so the highway department, the lunch group for the highway department sits beneath the ash chute.
Got it, okay.
So yeah, so because it was cantilevered out and
Right.
then down, so the cantilevered portion we built underneath it. And so the incinerator building on top is supported by the highway department down below. Unfortunately, it's like they're not severable, I can, but it's very hard to pull the one building off of the other building, because it actually serves as its roof. So the whole area for lunch and all the mechanicals and the locker rooms and the offices, the roof of that is actually the roof of the transfer station from above,
Okay.
so I pull it all off, I've got to put the roof back on the other one.
Okay.
So it's a little bit involved.
But this other building is like, it's not, the one that you just demolished is on the other, or you're going to demolish.
The one I'm demolishing is not anywhere near.
Right, so the other, that's almost not on like Main Street, right?
Yeah, it's closer to down River Road, yeah, so it's not anywhere near, it's just, it came with us when we moved from Lakeview Avenue, when we were over where Avalon is now, Riverwood, when we moved over, that structure came with us, and now it's 20+ years here, and it was 20+ years there, so it's got holes in the roof, it's got some problems.
What are you gonna use it for? What?
Cold storage, mostly for our out of season equipment. And some of our materials still down, but it needs to stay dry, some of the materials need to stay dry. And that's not impressive, so we got, and it was fix it or just get rid of it, it's better just to get rid of it. So that's in play, and then we put out our first paving bid, all of our paving bids are out, they're not started yet, the paving of our local roads will start within the next week. Or two, should be like the first week of June, and that really is, the three major roads are White Oak Shade, Marvin Village, Northfield Road, those are the three biggies. From end to end, so Marvin Ridge runs all the way from Old Norwalk to the town line. White Oak Shade runs from Farm Road all the way to town line, and then North Wilton runs from 123 all the way to town line, so the three big roads. I know we've got a couple of small ones, Lakeview Lane, Park Lane. Involved in there as well.
So North Wilton Road, is that gonna affect the traffic with St. Luke's?
It will, well, a little bit, yeah. But by the time they get there, hopefully school's out of session.
So you're doing all the way to Killer's Ridge? No, to DeForest, I'm sorry.
To the
When
forest.
you're, so yeah, the town line, because it's like two
Yeah.
house, it's, you're just doing it to the town line, right?
Only to the town.
Yeah, so town line, bottom line.
Right, yeah, that's it, right to the.
And it's
changed we're changed to the forest,
And it's all, it's daytime, it's not
it's
nighttime.
all daytime. Yeah. It's better at daytime, at nighttime, I'll be ruining everybody's sleep.
All I can say is it really needs it, so I won't.
How long will it take?
Weeks.
North Wilton Road will take a couple of
No,
weeks.
it's gonna take about 4 days to mill it, yeah, a couple weeks, 4 days to mill it, 4 days to pay it.
So you're still gonna have traffic on.
Still gonna go try that again, yeah. it's not anything, we
There's no
did
plan.
it 10 years ago, same exact thing, we did it around the exact same time, and we did it 10 years before that, same exact thing. Right around the same time, so it will accommodate the traffic at St. Luke's, so now it's not much I can do at St. Luke's. Yeah, a lot of traffic in St. Luke's, especially if the nighttime pickup will be a lot better because we'll be off the street by the nighttime pickup. It's the morning drop off, get a little bit.
But they get out early, like, right, I mean, they will be out of school. Are you starting?
Yeah, they'll, my plan is hopefully that we don't affect their school at all, so that they'll be out of school by the time that we're ready. to
Yeah.
go.
Make cross everybody else.
Right, so that, and then our micro and overlay roads and our crack seal roads. Have been awarded by the selectmen, but those are in July. We got about 29 roads total to do for crack seal, micro thin overlay or keep sealing.
It's 123 almost done by now.
123 has, we were just there. By their schedule, they have 1 day left, saying that they said it was gonna take them 4 days to pay Sunday, Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday nights, tonight's Wednesday. I don't know if they're gonna make it tonight, so it's close, but it's also, there's weather coming in and weather drops tomorrow, so. And when they went to mill it, they said it was gonna be 3 days to mill, it took them 4 days. So I'm thinking it's 4 days to pave, it's gonna be 5 days, so I don't know, but they're close, they're on the top course. For the northbound lane, southbound lane, they've got to do the entire top course, so there's a lot of material that's gotta go down, still don't know if they'll make it. But it's been at night, I haven't got a complaint from a resident, it's been at night, and they've been off the street by 5 AM, 5:30 AM, so that's been a problem. For them getting on or getting off. And then from there, they'll look to do 124.
Same.
So Owen Oak Ridge, right, that one hasn't been awarded yet, that project, but that's slated to be done this season. Same exact thing at night, and that runs from, I think it's from Country Club on up. So all the way out to the town line, so very similar thing, they'll go and do that, and probably be pretty similar time frame. 3 to 4 days at night to pave to mill, 3 to 4 days at night to pave. Same thing with a week, start out Sunday work, start a Sunday work. Thing. So yeah. Like I said, we're done with our bump outs in the downtown area, so those come out really nice. We've already restriped 2 parking spaces, we've got to restripe a couple of others to get the 5 back total. And then we'll be looking to repave Elm Street and then redo the crosswalks after the sidewalk sale. So sometime between the sidewalk sale and the first of school, be looking to get back in there and do that work. So I'm trying to stay out of the downtown right now to allow downtown just to function.
Can I intercede?
Sure.
I have a question. When we talked about sidewalks and we approved it in the budget, I don't ever remember a discussion about bump outs on Elm Street. And the number of calls and emails that I got from people complaining about it. Because number one is a change and nobody likes change. It's not a derogatory comment about them. But when something like that happens in a place where it's gonna be most visible, I think it would behoove us to do a presentation to learn about it before it happens, so we're not reacting to something that's an unknown to us.
Well, I can only tell you that it went to the police commission for several meetings. One public hearing on site, actually, that we actually walked it with the police commission. And it was over 2 years, so.
Then why, I don't ever remember seeing any emails saying, we're bringing this up, we're gonna do a public walkthrough. So I'm not in tune to what happens at the police station all the time, are you?
I feel like if the only information that I did have it, I do feel like there were things about it in the Canaanite occasionally, like.
But that's not where we should be reading it.
So like a presentation to town council or.
Yeah, but I think that in particular, things that are most visible and will affect, a commentary from everybody. Would help us as the approving body of the money spent to understand what's going on, to get a heads up. To be able to answer the questions and not figure out who to get in touch with to do what to answer anyone with.
So I see what Christine's saying, so like, we're the front lines of I mean, I guess you are too,
Right.
the complaint. But to have like, you know, that. You know, the depth of explanation in our. You know,
Arsenal.
yeah, exactly. I mean, I do think that I think I have images from. Chat conversations with you that I like, my pushback kind of commentary could be that I knew that we were gaining. Parking spaces back, so, but to your point, it wasn't in a formal,
Right.
like,
That's fine, I can't speak to whether or not coming back to the council for it, but I do know that it went through several iterations as far as like several meetings. I had a P and Z had to opine, the parking commission, the police commission. The police commission, like I said, we had a public hearing on it. And then we had several meetings, and then we had several meetings again the following year about it, and then it went in several phases. So we did the north side of the street, waited a year, and then went to the south side of the street. Um, so it was kind of and we told people that each time there was comment, that their comments. So it's a fair point, and we can try to do better in the future. But I didn't think that we were. I thought it was actually pretty well vetted and pretty well put out there as far as like people knowing. But, to be honest, because we weren't shy about it. We had been planning it for a long period of time, and the implementation actually took a little bit longer than we wanted because Eversource was in the middle of the downtown for 2 years.
Mhm.
So if you look at from the time that we did the northern side to the time we finished the southern side, there's at least a year gap, not more, because they were camped out, for a good amount of time, and I didn't want to touch. Once they were out, I didn't want to touch the downtown again because the downtown was really sensitive on how affected they were by their work, so I wanted to stay away. But we can certainly, take a look and see what we can do.
I think as the town council, we follow and have enough to follow the board of finance and town council high committee. But we're not chasing around to get information from other departments, so maybe if there is a public hearing, we could be copied up. And aware of what's coming out.
That's, I'd say that, but we can certainly try to do better. in the
Okay.
future, But I can't be, responsible for making sure that if I have a public hearing and one item that you're notified about it. Public hearings, public hearing, I think that sometimes it's up to if you wanna be in the know, you're in the know. You just look on the town website, it's well posted, it has to be well posted in advance. But as far as presentations to the council, we can do better to that. I can't make sure that if I'm going to P and Z to take down the Irwin House on 824, that I make sure that council knows on the date that I'm going. I can't get that. That gets a little bit much for me to.
I'm not
make
talking
sure.
about that, I'm talking, if there's a public hearing notice, maybe it should be copied to
It's not my,
certain, okay.
it's not my call.
Okay.
To be honest, I think it's a little bit beyond asking me to do that, to be honest.
upstairs.
Yeah, I can't make sure that you guys all know. To me, if you read the calendar of events, I read the calendar of events every month, I read it every week. To know what's going on, and I put every single thing in my phone, so I'm aware of it, so I think that some of it's on the individual, not necessarily on the department.
Well, I'm finding, I know this is a more day of use sort of, but I'm finding in the last year, these texts and emails saying, this road today or this is coming, so I'm finding those were very helpful.
We didn't have Everbridge before, so.
Exactly, so I've
So
been,
now I have, with Everbridge, trying to put out when we get into the season, put out a weekly one. Right, so
With all
every Friday, Saturday, or Sunday, depending upon when I get the information, because I have to wait for some information from others, right? So from Aquarian will give me their project update. Eversource will give me their project update, and I ask for them on a Friday. I said, listen, I don't care when you get it to me, just get it to me on a Friday, so I can then get it back down again. In the best interest of you all, if I can get it on Friday at noon, have everything back out Friday at 4, but doesn't always work. It's sometime between Friday and Sunday, I put out for the next week,
So
what's happening, where we are, so that's the goal. We I don't know, we've had Everbridge for maybe a year at best, so we're trying to utilize it, but we're also trying to not overload. Because when we were faulted originally by putting out too many notices and then people were disengaging from Everbridge, and it's like the emergency call out, so we don't want them to disengage from Everbridge. We need with Everbridge, but if they feel that they're getting too many notifications, then they'll disengage, and then we lose them. We lose them,
Like-
you know.
But like everything's like a routine, so I like this idea, if you can compile like. These 4 things are happening and I get, if I start to get this like every Sunday morning or Monday morning. Like I know that, okay, those are just these updates of like. Traffic on 123 on North Wilton because of paving, whatever. And then if I get like a notice from you randomly at like 4 o'clock on a Wednesday, like tornado alert,
I don't
I'm gonna
disagree.
pay attention.
I don't,
It's
I don't
all
disagree,
wrong habits.
I think to me, it's disengaging from it is, you just gotta know who knows despite your face,
Yeah.
that's my personal. But, we are trying to get uniform on that, just
Yeah.
for us, a weekly, and then if you do get something else, then you go, oh, wait.
Yeah,
you know,
this is not what I normally hear from Tiger, so I have to pay
Right,
attention.
and that's down to, whatever might be happening at that point in time, but.
Can I ask a question, just because maybe this will help us for today? Like, if we do have time for the committee reports, can you tell us exactly how many parking spaces did we get back?
Five.
A total of 5 on the whole, not 5 on each side, just 5 on the whole of. Okay, so if anybody complains, we have that.
What's the total number of parking spaces?
I didn't think of that too, I don't have that, I don't, it's in the 70s, 80s. But we lost. Well, during COVID and during the original, the bump outs to the restaurants at the time, we lost 5. And we've had that loss since 2019, since COVID. So we've been working at a deficit of -5 for the past.
Talking Elmo.
Elmo. Right, and then with this bump out, we gained the 5 back, so it's a net of 0.
I see.
But we've been I consider it a gain of 5.
So we got back.
We've been down 5 for 5 years or 6 years. So to me, I consider that to be a +5 now because it should be. It should be a noticeable change. Now, I think that there's like 80 spaces, so at that point in time, you're talking, it's a pretty good percentage coming back.
So we can say, we got that.
Right.
5 spaces.
So we lost how many when we were forced to 15?
Because of the crosswalk.
So we didn't get any back on that, or did we?
Well, basically that worked, that helped us, it's part of that 15 that we
Okay.
got back, it's about the easiest way to
Okay.
describe it. By doing the bump outs, we were able to then work within that law,
Yeah,
to then make sure that we still satisfy the law,
right,
but gain some of the workable spaces back, because we were having on the approach, so if you're looking at it from the approach, if you're looking at it on Elm Street as you're approaching South Avenue. Okay, so right in front of Dunkin' Donuts, the first 25 feet there on that approach
right.
was no parking, because it was 25 feet either side of the crosswalk.
With all those yellow lines that you had.
Right, exactly, so we lost that 25 feet, by putting in a hardscape bump out, I was able to gain.
Why is that? Like, I don't
Because you can't
understand.
drive up on it. Okay.
So why did that make it?
Because if you imagine now, originally you were on, yeah, we were standing out there, if you were standing on the edge of the road, the original edge of the road, okay? The car was parking right next to you, okay, the car was parking right here, and then as you walked into the crosswalk, you were walking past the car.
Right.
To then get to the end of it, and be able to see, that whole area, there was an errant car there, that car can hit you at any point in time while you're in the crosswalk. The moment I made it elevated and pushed the sidewalk out further, this car can park in here and can't hit you.
Because there's no way if they were
They
to
gotta
back
jump
up,
the
they're
curb,
not gonna back into.
Right.
jump the curb and hit you.
Okay.
So that was the overall thought, was that we were able to then extend the parking area into an area where if it was just at grade, you couldn't do that.
So here's another stupid question. So how come the number of parking spaces you get back is an odd number?
It's just based upon the way that the body we worked, the linear footage worked when Maria did the calculation out. We were able to gain 2 at one spot, 3 in another. It's basically the way the mathematics worked. That's all I can really
That's okay.
explain to you,
It's good
you know,
enough for me.
yeah. so-
Are you planning any landscaping in those corners? Bump
In the
outs?
corners at present now, so one, the one out in front of the playhouse, for example, on the opposite side of the playhouse, Dolce's already. They've already paid a permit, I think, to go out onto that. The one that's in front of Manfredi's, we're looking at doing some. Some additional amenities like benches and things like that. Then the one that's in front of Dunkin' Donuts is kind of rather narrow, can't really do much with that one. But what we wanted to do is basically put them in, let everybody get used to them being there in the space. And then start to add amenities. We did add one tree back in front of Elm, put an elm tree back in front of Elm on Elm Street, so. We just put that back a couple of days ago, but we haven't done any other landscaping per se. We are looking at putting in some planters in various areas on Main Street to try to help with traffic and help with safety, and then kind of add a little bit more color. So but we haven't. My fear was to go and do it and then put everything on it. And then everybody go, what happened? Rather than just have it be there and have everyone understand what's going on and get used. And then take a look at how the space is being used by people. You know, because now if you go out there, people are actually standing in the areas where we built the bump outs, they're standing there and having conversations, specifically out in front of Dunkin' Donuts. That's done a very nice job of pulling people out of the building and then pulling them onto the street and then standing around having a conversation, what have you, or meeting people out there. Like I said, Dolce's already taken the area, you know, like they're already, you know, putting their permit in that area, so they've been able to use that space, and the one space that's left is in front of Manfredi's. And my thought there was to put in some additional tables and chairs there for people who are walking through the area. But aren't associated with a certain restaurant, because right now you can't really sit in front of a restaurant without ordering from the restaurant. It's kind of bad taste, right? You're taking up their table, but you're not ordering them. So the thought is you could get something from Dunkin' Donuts or Starbucks or from another eatery somewhere else. And then go to that area and sit near Elm Street, sort of like an extension of the pop-up park. Because the pop-up park did exactly that. When we had the pop-up park, we had high top tables in there, we had some high top chairs, and it was kind of cool, you know, to be able to sit out there. Yeah, because I used to take my subway and then walk over there. Subway's no longer here anymore. I used to take that and walk over there because there was no place to eat over there. As I would go to the pop-up park and eat. Well, that same exact thing, you could meet someone there and not have to be affiliated with a restaurant. So you don't have to order from that restaurant, and then you're not taking up their table if you're meeting someone somewhere else. So that's the overall thought. We haven't brought it any further. Our original goal was just to get it in place, see how it's used, and then figure out what would be best. I've got a landscape architect that works right across the street, pushing it all day long, so I know exactly what's happening out there. So, you know, and he's been very vocal on how he thinks we should do things there. So I think it'd be a helpful information for them. So I think it's working. I think it looks nice. It's definitely increased the safety. It's decreased the speeds. It's increased the flow. And, you know, it's helped with flow.
I will say, if it cuts down on people who aren't from here, just blowing right through those crosswalks, then I'm grateful, because that is one of the huge pet peeve of mine, the way people.
What we want,
Yeah.
Well, we watched, so Maria and I went out there when we built the first one in front of Dunkin' Donuts. We went out and we stood by the clock, by the Merino clock, and had a conversation. Talking about what was going on. No cars stopped because we weren't at the crosswalk, or we weren't at the accessible ramp. The moment we stepped to the accessible ramp, we literally only took like 2 steps forward. We stepped on the accessible ramp, cars immediately stopped because they could see us. And then we did it the opposite way, going the other way, where on one intersection at the time we had it where one intersection was actually constructed, one hadn't been, so we could actually stand back. Cars aren't stopping for us. The moment we came out to the edge of the bump out, cars stopped immediately because they know the pedestrian's standing right there. So it's actually helped a lot with that aspect of the pedestrian not being in danger, and the cars being more aware of the nature of the downtown and how, you know, how many people we have walking around. So it was anecdotal, but at the same time, it was very apparent. And it happened on multiple days. We went out there, and every single time we stepped up to the crosswalk, somebody stopped. Yeah, which was nice to see. I didn't have one person go past at all. And it didn't have anything to do with who we were, it had everything to do with what we were, which was the pedestrians, so I think that worked very well. Overall, the excuse me, and other than that, the capo's wrapping up. We were there this morning. It's got about 2 weeks left before they're all done. They're just on site work now.
What does that mean, just like the site work, like?
Yeah, they have to cut, well, everything that was disturbed on the outside of the field has to be, put back together again, and then the walkways. Up to the field itself have to be finalized. They're, excuse me, the gravel right now, they're in process aggregate phase right now, and they'll be paved within the next 2 weeks, so he's thinking he'll be done within 2 weeks. And then we did first phase of Waving Trails, that was that got finished a couple of weeks ago. Excuse me, and the next set is out to bid, and that should come back within another 2 weeks, and then they'll start there. And that stretches from the South Avenue entrance along South Avenue to the Merritt Parkway. So we did from the South Avenue entrance south, the Farm Road, just finished all that, now we're doing from South Avenue entrance to the Merritt Parkway. And at that point in time, the Conservancy has plans for the Parkway. The trail along the Parkway, they have plans that they're putting together for that, so that's why we're stopping where we are. Which would I consider to be the extent of our purview. And then
What about just past it, doesn't New Canaan go just past the Merritt Parkway,
the
South Avenue?
well, the trail itself hugs
Okay,
the entrance ramp.
okay,
It doesn't go, yeah, we go past it, but the trail itself hugs the entrance ramp. And then goes along the Merritt, goes along the entrance ramp and then along the Merritt up to Plath.
but only
I
on
thought
the
it's in-
south side.
On the south side of, on the southbound
Okay.
side of the Merritt, that's correct,
So
yeah.
I thought Conservancy was the part that's parallel to the Merritt, going from, so you're saying the second phase is
There's a
is
portion,
South Avenue to the entrance to the Merritt, so then that whole thing that goes then from like parallel to the Merritt to Lapham, is that Conservancy?
that's concerned, so that they have a plan, they're putting together a plan with Heritage Landscape. For that trail, to look at that trail, that's one of their, that was one of their points that they wanted to, when they first were formed, that was one of their points that they wanted to address. Was the noise and the visual aspect of the Merritt Parkway being adjacent to the trail and adjacent to the park. So they're working with Heritage Landscapes right now on a plan for that.
Right.
And they'll put that together and then bring that to the town bodies
Right,
sometime in the
right,
future.
basically, we must, so that they have to come up now with it, they don't have to plan or fundraising, right, that's just separate. We'll hear from them in that.
Well, they're, at that time, yeah, they'll finalize the plan, then come forward and present it to Park and Rec Commission and others. And then at that point in time, then they'll, if it's looked upon favorably, then I imagine they'll go to fundraise for that portion. They'll have to take the plan to us, make sure we're in agreement with it, the town's in agreement with it, and then they can go forward and fundraise for that. And then the intersection improvements at Conrad Road will go in the middle of the summer. Excuse me, around June 15th or so. And that's just finalized. Right now, it's the intersection is just striped as far as this three-way stops, and this will be actually hardscaping it, making it into grass, actually. So we're gonna finish that right after school is out of session. And then the sidewalks on Putnam Road will start the day after school and run from just all of Putnam Road in part of Surrey. Is that contract, the selectmen awarded that contract, it was just under $500,000 for that work. And then the only other big thing on the horizon is Aquarion's gonna do their work on South Avenue from Harrison Farm. The day after school to the day before school, the South Avenue will be closed every day for work in that area. It'll be open for local traffic, emergency vehicles, but it'll be closed to through traffic. And we'll be asking everyone to utilize Park Street, Old Stanford Road, and Park Street itself, and Main Street to get around. Because there's, unless you live specifically on one of the cul-de-sacs, you should be able to come into your house from off, from not on South Avenue. But if you're Great Street, Crystal Street, Brooks Road, something like that, you obviously have to come down South Avenue and you're allowed access.
So at what juncture are you going to notice the drivers that they've got to detour?
At the intersection of south of 106 at Bank Street, going to traffic light,
Right.
they're gonna get hit there, and then they're gonna get hit at Farm Road. So they're gonna, basically, there'll be a cop at Bank Street 106. Bank Street and
So
South
they have
Avenue.
to go all the way down the farm.
They'll have to come around and come up, yeah, it's about, it's no other way around it, unless you live there. And then our feeling is that it'll take a couple, 3 days, and everybody will figure out that just don't go down South Avenue. Yeah, because if you come up South Avenue, you're gonna get detoured down Bank Street, or down Harrison. It really comes down to where they wanna put it, but it's really either gonna be at Bank or at Harrison, but you're not gonna be able to get past Harrison. And then you won't be able to get past Farm. That'll be the area that they'll be working in, and they'll need the entire road in order to try to stay with the pace that they need to stay with in order to get the pipe in the ground and actually move. They're gonna take up the entire roadway during it.
Are you gonna have those things, those things that warn you that it's coming, like, cause I know Janice put it in her letter and then, but those things like, cause
There'll be a variable message board put
Yeah.
out there.
I responded to one year at 106, so I live in that
Yeah.
part of town and I often have to go to Wilton, so it does help to see like a week from now.
Yeah, the advanced warning signs will go up, they're just not ready yet
Mhm.
to go up, it's a little bit early. But probably around June 1, cause it'll be a 2-week lead time, they'll go up saying it's, it's gonna be closed. Probably have schools still in session, the earlier I put it, I can just thinking that South Avenue is closed during school, it's not gonna be closed during school, it's gonna be closed after. That's part of the permit, they're not allowed to start until the day after school, whatever day that is. Is what we left it as the day after school instead of the date, so. So just because I didn't know, I could guarantee the date at the time. But that'll be disruptive at best, I don't know how else to describe that, but that'll be disruptive. And that is just a necessary thing, that's a regional asset, it's not got anything to do with the town, it's regional. It's got to do with everything with bringing water from Bridgeport to Greenwich and Stanford, it's got nothing to do with us, except we're just in the way.
Hmm.
Yeah, we're in the way. So if you look at when we had the drought a couple of years ago, this route is basically the route that the pipe took. So we had that, the above ground pipe that was on West School that went down past the Honus Ridge, what have you. Exact same thing, that's all they put it above ground, now they're putting it below ground,
But where's the water coming from?
Bridgeport.
That's a weird question, like, and I probably know the answer to this, but like, so even for like the amount of like the labor and time that you have to do to put up these signs and have like the police and doing all that, do we get compensated for that?
We're not doing it, they're doing it.
Oh, so it's state,
It's
the signage, everything, like,
Aquarius doing it, and if we have officers there as extra duty, Aquarius paying the extra duty officer. Yeah,
So
the
we're
only thing is
compensated,
compensated
right?
is my time. That's the only thing, time is not compensated, to be honest, they take care of everything, as far as it goes, they're all the design, the inspection, the construction, the bidding, everything is all of them, we have spent $0 on
What about the paving?
pavings on that.
Okay, but we had problems when the gas line was going in.
Different MOU,
Okay,
different discussion, this is a state road, so.
oh, so it's totally out of
It's
jurisdiction.
totally out of my jurisdiction, but with that said, they did Harrison, and didn't have a problem on Harrison, they did Lakeview, didn't have a problem on Lakeview, did Littlebrook, didn't have a problem on Littlebrook.
Do you have them repay the entire street?
Yes,
Okay,
curb to curb,
okay,
yeah, so that's part of it, but South Avenue is specifically
Right.
state road, and then 106 where they are now, right now is state road. But they will be overlaying the road at the end of the year. While they wait for the trenches to settle and all the rest of it, so it won't be, the patch that's out there will not be out there, there'll be a brand new road. Out there, or a brand new patch out there until they repave it, and they wait an entire year, an entire season to go do it again. So they'll be repaving 106 from Littlebrook to Canoe Hill. Shortly, I should say, and then the other stretch they'll do next year, the stretch from Canoe Hill to Valley, they'll do next year. They'll overlay it and then repave it next year. And then they still have the bridge work to do. And then if you travel through Wilton, they still have to go from Wilton further on, so Wilton gets hit on both sides, we don't get it on one side. Which is nice.
Okay.
But that kind of gives you everything that we're working on at present, I think, or anything that might cross your desk. The intersection of 123 Brushy Ridge Locust went out the bids, that's gonna be done in August. That's improvements with the traffic signal and the traffic light and the pedestrian, and getting pedestrians across from River Street, Brushy over to Locust and then into town. And then just working on that pedestrian crossing there, so that work is gonna be done this year.
Okay,
Well-
can we go into the carriage bar and what's coming?
Yeah, absolutely. So the carriage barn itself, the carriage barn went out, got a grant for $128,000 for improvements to basically to the exterior, so the patio. So it's a patio sound and lighting improvement project. And then some landscaping and other things associated with it. So the exterior, the carriage barn right now has kind of a bluestone walkway into it, and then the rest of it is gravel, stone. And that's not necessarily the best traversable surface for anyone with a disability. So the thought is that all that's coming out and they're putting in a bluestone walkway, bluestone patio throughout. And then to keep it for the fact that it was a carriage barn, there'll actually be 2 rows of different type of block that will signify a carriage path that went into the barn. So kind of a nod to history. So inside the double doors, it'll look like there's like a rutted path coming in and out. And then they have plans for increased lighting outside and then a sound system for outside, so that they can not only have an event that's inside, but inside and outside, or just an exterior event, so they can kind of expand upon their footprint a little bit and utilize it a little bit better. They're having events outside, they're having to do that with temporary, lighting, with extension cords. There's a lot of things in there that we don't necessarily want in an outdoor event that they've had to do in order to have them. So this will actually help them. And then across the way from the carriage barn, if you're looking for the carriage barn out across the parking lot, their little parking area, that whole area, the landscaping in that area is it's a little unkept. It's just kind of we've let it naturalize. And there's a plan to kind of open that up and then replant that entire area with a nice, much more landscaped area. So as you come down the hill and around to come into the carriage barn proper, that whole area has been redone, and it's kind of incorporates their parking lot and their facility. And then there's a little bit of work on the grass area between the carriage barn and the powerhouse itself. And then there's a fence that is in the back, that before the embankment between the carriage barn and the powerhouse. And we're looking to redo that as well, the new fencing there. So overall, it's kind of a remake or a redo of the exterior of that area, the patio platform area outside, for things that we necessarily probably would have had to do, especially from maybe the accessible point of view. But now we have much more useful space for that.
The one thing that I have to say is dangerous is the handrail going up the walk towards the parking lot.
Okay, that's new, but I'll take a look at that. You're talking the series of stairs that we have going up to
Yeah.
the parking lot.
Yeah.
All right, that what's it loose?
Loosen parts and just not, it doesn't mean code, but if you're gonna do all that work, I don't know if it's the right.
It's not part of it. That's not part of it. And I'll have to look at the code requirements. I think it's got a foot overhang on both sides, but I'll take a look.
Is all the work that you just mentioned for the carriage barn, landscape and bluestone sound, is that all covered by this
It's all
grant?
covered by the grant.
So no cost to the town.
There is a cost share of 20% for that's shared between that's part of it, that's shared between the carriage barn and the town. So it's 20% of the grant cost. And that's split equally between the carriage barn and the town.
Right.
Right?
That's
Can
correct.
you explain?
So the town has 10% of the project.
Right.
And Carriage Barn pays 10% of the project, that's 20%. The grant is 80%.
Okay, so Carriage Barn
So-
puts in 10% of,
So the local match is 20%.
But the actual grant is a full 128,000.
Yes.
Okay,
So the 20% goes on top of that,
okay,
and then the 20% is split between Carriage Barn and the town.
okay, so have any prices has it been bid
We have
out?
not bid it yet, no,
So it could come up higher,
it could come up higher, it could come up lower, yeah. We don't know yet, so, is
and if it comes up lower, the grant is reduced?
that correct, correct?
Pardon me?
If it comes up lower, the grant is reduced,
Yes.
I'm sure
The
they'll
state's
find-
portion, the state's portion would be reduced
Okay.
before the match is reduced,
Okay,
that's true.
and then if there's anything above and beyond, that's on the Carriage Barn, not of the town. But we're not there yet, I haven't bid it yet.
wait, so if when it goes out and the estimate is, it's gonna cost more than 128. Then they will make up that it, like our 10% is fixed. Based on this 128.
Right, we're fixed.
I just found the numbers here, so the total project is 153,600. And of that, 80% is 128,000. That's the grant.
Right.
The balance is 25,600. That's 20%, and that is split. Between, so that the town pays 12,800. Carriage Barn pays 12,800.
Thank you for that, that's very helpful.
And to be clear, is all, if it comes up tonight at the full town council meeting. This is Hillary Whitman's grant, and it's to her credit
right,
for going after it and getting it.
Mhm.
It's on town property, and so I'm happy to manage it.
what are the restrictions that the contract for the grant puts on the town?
Well, the biggest restriction is very noteworthy, and it's something the town council will talk about tonight, and that is a statutory lien.
Yeah.
Which restricts the use of that parcel,
Mhm,
the Carriage Barn parcel.
Mhm.
To remain as an arts center
right,
for 10 years.
okay, okay,
So nobody expects anything else.
right,
If for some reason the use did change, for some reason it became a gym,
mhm,
for example, then the grant would have to be given back,
understood.
prorated based on the number of years.
Similar to the
That
boys.
did not remain an art center.
Okay,
Anyway, so yes, so that is the biggest, it's the only restriction that comes to mind.
Right,
Certainly noteworthy.
Yeah, and they literally only really restricted that portion of the property.
Yes, we made that very clear. Tiger and I have had going back and forth with the state over the years, because sometimes they want us to restrict the use of
right,
the area of property that goes way beyond where the grant is applicable,
okay,
and we usually don't agree to that, so it's a tight restriction as far as the area goes.
okay.
Right.
Do we have to put any signage up, giving state credit or anything like that?
We haven't, well, let's see. I'm not positive, I can check that, it would be in the, in the assistance agreement.
Okay,
If it's
Might be
there.
during construction, a lot of times there's a sign that's put up during construction that says that this project brought to you.
Yeah,
right,
yeah.
A grant from such and such, but it doesn't stay. The moment that the project is completed and it's been accepted.
Yeah.
Then the signage comes down, it doesn't have to stay there in perpetuity. It's
Right.
It's really.
That's right. Just
Right,
during the
yeah.
construction.
Yeah, like if you drive down the road, this infrastructure project brought to you by the IJRA or whatever.
Yeah, you don't do that.
IRA, those, that's just during construction, the moment that it's done. Then the sign comes down, so we might have to have that, because a lot of.
Publicity in general, if there's a story about this, then yes, we give credit to the.
Right,
And by the way, the Playhouse also had a statutory lien from that state grant that came in a year ago. year and a half ago, so.
How long was that one?
Pardon?
Do you know how long that one was?
He's the same.
Yeah, that was.
Thank you for breaking it down. It's very helpful.
Yes.
Right, so that basically, I mean, it's a small footprint project, it's not, it's not a lot going on other than just the patio, it's just
Yeah.
really patio.
We call it the courtyard.
Yeah,
When
Okay.
when are they gonna start?
I have to finish the specs, we really gotta kind of run through here, make sure we're all good. I
Yeah.
gotta finish the specifications and then send it back to the DECD to make sure that we've encompassed everything that they're looking for. The specifications are done as far as like the technical side, it's the boilerplate side that they wanna have, there's certain things that under a state grant, they have certain guidelines and certain requirements you have to have in your bidding. Sometimes they'll tell you that you gotta have it advertised in a certain paper, you've gotta have it advertised for a certain time frame. There's things of that nature, there's nothing on the technical side that they're telling us that we need to do with the property or how we need to build it. It's really on the front end side, on the contractual side, is all the documents that they usually provide. I just have to slot those into our boilerplate specs and then put it out for bid.
So. Did the carriage barn have the drawings that of what they were proposing to do? Or was the grant request just in writing? The only reason I'm asking
I
is.
believe there was a schematic,
Might have been, yeah, might not have been a full construction drawing at the time, might have
right,
just
the
been
application.
So are we engaging a landscape professional to do a layout to go along with your boilerplate, so the.
Oh, yes, I do. This is it,
Okay,
so.
It's
It was part of the
Hillary,
package.
is she
I'm sorry.
coming? Or is it you?
Open.
Hillary will be there for that, remotely, she's at the child's graduation.
so are the fees for this incurred by the town,
Was incurred by the town, that's our match,
the 12,600 or 800?
right, that was our match.
What's the design, this design?
And has the carriage barn approved this?
Oh, yeah,
I gotta say that.
it's been her, yeah, it's her baby. Yeah, so she worked directly with Keith and us on the development of it, Keith Simpson Associates and us on the development of it. But she was intimately involved in every decision that was made.
Couple of years back, I was on community foundation, like grant reviews in the arts area, and she was already wishing about this. So
Yeah, it's
nice to see it come.
like Greg said, she worked hard on the grant, she got the grant, it's just a question of now bringing it to fruition, since it's a town parcel and town property. It falls back underneath our jurisdiction to bring it forward.
So the fence that you're talking about between the powerhouse and the carriage barn that you're replacing, what is it being replaced with?
There's a detail in there, I'm not quite certain what it is.
And is that cost part of the grant?
Yes,
Where is it? Where's the pen? Where is it?
the fence is there is plastic.
What did it say? Moving. No. Let's say what it's.
No.
Looks like a
Okay,
hedge.
It's not a hedge, it's a fence, it's gonna be a fence, I forgot exactly what it is, I'll find out what it was, but it's a fence. So, there's a. Right, remove existing fence, install new fence, see details, so. So. That's the sliding on the feet and. The fence, so.
What's that?
We,
yeah,
that's
It's not.
much nicer when you try to open it up a little bit, you got a nice vista on across the back, you just don't see it,
stop with me.
Yeah.
so.
You know what they say, throw some ivy over and we'll never see it.
Hmm.
Nothing.
So, yeah, but that's the overall. Thought on that.
I'm so glad they explained this, but I do have to say is check put some of these documents from the state on our, I tried to, I was joking with Christina. Like, it's so convoluted, like these 29-page legalese things, I'm like, I shouldn't have a law degree to like understand the scope of it, it's crazy. I'm just like,
No, you're right. That was probably one of the biggest sticking points, which was the hardest thing, was those documents with the state, trying to figure out who's responsible and who's not.
yeah,
That's all.
there's gotta be a way to communicate
In
the
English,
details of a deal, right? Like that.
It's not
You
that
can
easy for the
understand.
state.
They don't make it easy.
They do not make it.
That could be a bipartisan agreement, right?
Yeah, in essence, you know, you're giving us money to do what, it really should be very, very simple in the end, yeah.
Could have, I mean,
It's
question.
never as simple as that.
well, they need a loophole in case they don't like something, they
Right.
come back,
Fully.
so.
So
Okay.
that's the nature of it right there. It's not much, you know, we'll. Pending approval from you guys this evening, then we'll finalize the specs, put it on the street, and then it's not that long to actually build, it's very short. To put the patio in and the lighting, what have you. Then it's got some additional drainage in it as well, because we've had some drainage issues there,
I
so.
think it's an elegant solution, given the fact that she got all that money coming in, since I've been to a lot of events and I've performed there, and it is ridiculous outside for anybody. It's like, I remember actually being there like post surgery, and just like it's kind of miserable the way it is if you're coming through outside, because you're one flagstone and then another one with the gravel in between, you just takes nothing to get caught.
Yeah,
in that,
That's
so.
why, that was, originally, we looked at that, and we were looking at having to make that change, so that actually. And it just happened that she was looking at the same thing. Because when we looked at it from that perspective, from an accessibility standpoint, she was actually looking at it from a, you know, from that aspect as well as just an event space for herself. I think the two just kind of came together. So I said, likely, without this grant, we likely would have had to do this work ourselves as well. But now with this grant, we're able to tackle two birds with one stone. We're able to take care of the accessibility issue and then an outdoor event space for her, which I think is
Yeah,
probably the best part of that design, is that it tackles two things.
probably preventing someone from like tripping, catching and falling.
Right,
The
well,
person
yeah,
outside
to imagine
dogs,
that, you know, some of her clientele, some of the people that visit the area are, you know, most nimble, so yeah, we have to be very aware of
But
that.
that could be anybody at any time, but
Anytime.
you gotta.
Yep.
Wonky.
Okay, does anybody else have any other questions?
Good.
So the proposed schedule you sent, are you revising that or are you able to move the time?
Like that time, that time works very well for me, to be honest, because I got that day at the Conservation Commission right at noon, so I can get, and I usually go first with them, I get out at 12:30. That's why I thought it was pretty elegant, because it was, I get out at 12:30 and then you start at 1:30 on your agenda setting.
Yeah.
It gives us a nice window. I don't have much more than an hour to give you at any one time frame, so. I like to keep it to an hour and then, but it doesn't have to be that day or at that time. I can give you a different date or different time, but I'd still like to stick to an hour. You know, once a month. I just thought that it worked, you were already here, right? Because you're already gonna be upstairs at the 1:30 for.
Yeah, it's just
that.
back to back and there isn't enough time if there are any questions or anything.
Okay, well, it's still, you know, again, I, you know, I'd like to keep it to an hour, because anything more than that, I think, you know, I can always come back and answer questions or give you more data, you know, and that, to that end too, would be helpful to know exactly what you're looking for on a, when I give you an update, what it specifically are you looking at all?
Exactly what we had at this meeting is an update of what the construction that's underway is. And anything that's coming for any approval, we should know ahead of time.
Okay,
That's,
yeah, this one was just different, you know, that's why it wasn't in my 5-year plan, because it's
Yeah.
a little bit outside the realm, and it coming from a different entity. You know, that's why it wasn't, and it had been in play for quite some time, so it really wasn't even, you know, shouldn't have been in this year's 5-year capital anyway, probably been in last year's. But I don't see anything coming forward right now that, you know, that would be out of budget cycle, you know, from a Bach amendment standpoint, you know, I don't see anything. If there is, I'll certainly let you know, but.
can I just ask you a question, going back to the Bach Amendment? Can any of the nonprofits who are presently in our buildings request, or a nonprofits, let's say it could be historical commission or whatever, ask for a grant to the state, do they need approval from the town before they ask for a grant?
That's what we asked.
There's-
Yeah.
There is a grant policy that I've been drafting.
Yeah.
It is near finalization.
Okay, but there hasn't been one in the past.
There has been a policy, but it didn't cover that question.
Okay, so this is an anomaly going forward. It's not,
This is probably a one-off.
Yeah.
And that's gonna be a one-off, because this actually spurred that question of, you're in our building, you're asking for a grant.
right,
That
Well,
affects
really,
us.
really should-
Right.
It affects changes to a town property.
It should really come to us first before you ask for the grant.
Yeah.
So is that what you're drafting, like putting that right, that the proposed policy might be that if the town has to approve it first before you go
Right.
ask for it?
right,
So
so,
to determine whether or not we actually wanna do it. We worked that way, the other, so the Conservancy, right, the Conservancy is putting together a plan for the Merritt Parkway Trail, the town might say. We don't really wanna do that, and then at that point in time, we have a discussion about whether or not the pays for it, doesn't pay for it,
Right.
and whatever. So we try to do that with each group, it's just this one was a little different, that's all, but his policy should take that into consideration, and then have it be where if they are operating out of our building and they have an opportunity for a grant, come and ask us and we'll say whether or not, they'll do the same route that we do, which is to go to the Board of Selectmen or the first selectman and ask whether or not we can apply. So,
so that I understand going forward better of the situation, the Bach Amendment states that monies for projects need to be in place before the project starts, meaning in the hands of the town.
that's correct.
But when the town has approved a project, and I'm going back to the playground at Waveney. And the town has approved the monies, and then all of a sudden the project stops. To allow a nonprofit to come in and fundraise to enhance it. Where does that get addressed?
That's not a grant.
No, but it's money that's coming from fundraising that the town council, it's been circumvented, the project of the monies we allowed for it. I just can't understand what we're doing about it to prevent it from happening and why could it happen?
Yeah, it's
I don't know, I think you should tell the administrative officer the first one I'll do.
So your question, I just wanna understand your question, which is that. Because some of this thing happened before my time, is that like. The town proved that there could be a new playground at Whitney, but
The town approved the
Right.
monies in full for
Right.
the repair and
but it
replacement.
required extra fundraising and. I'm sorry, I won't say, can you just explain that issue to me?
The town council approved the budget that Tiger presented to replace as an emergency project, the playground at Waverly. And the project did not move forward for about 2 years. Then the third year, correct me if I'm wrong. Part of the project was done. But the reason for the holdover was that the group that fundraised for the Saks playground,
Meat Park.
thank you for Mead Park, requested to intervene and fundraise to enhance the playground. That never came before the town council, yet if that goes through as presently is moving. The town will be responsible to replace that or repair that in the future where the town did not commit to that amount or that level of detail, let's say.
Mhm.
So it may be a luxurious diamond that the town may not want, but it's basically being
Mhm.
created that way. And I just wanna make sure that we all know our limits, that's all.
They're not amending or
You're increasing the replacement cost.
Correct.
Right, but so can I just ask one thing,
Yeah.
and not, because I don't wanna like ask this out here, but how is that any different than like Cabo? Like, we're gonna have to maintain a fancier.
Because we know what the budget is and we know what they're doing. Now, our budget is inclusive of contingencies and other things, but we know that that's the number. We're buying into it from the beginning. This is something that was budgeted and it's increasing by the monies that are being fundraised, whether it's the quality, the equipment, the type, or the extent of the project.
very similar to what happened at Mead, so Mead Park was the exact same scenario.
Back with Malasi, is that the project you're talking about?
That project was the exact same thing, where fundraise after the Friends Mead Park, they meant to put in the porta place service.
But did they come and present?
I don't know, I have to look back.
Oh.
I have no idea.
But is that generally true that like if a group, an outside group comes and like fundraises to make something like more lux than it would have normally been, then it ultimately costs the town more money to maintain that lux stuff?
At times, yeah, but not, you know, I mean, and it doesn't mean that we're gonna actually replace that
At the same level.
at the same level, you know, I mean. So Meat Park got enhanced, doesn't mean it would stay enhanced. Way you got will be enhanced, doesn't mean it have to stay enhanced in, you know, 20 years out. It might not, might just take it out and not put it back in again, I don't know.
What the
20 years. from now.
moods the town is.
But also money has a value now that it's not going to have a value in 3 years, so we're losing. On the amount that was approved, because we may not be able to build it for that amount 3 or 4 years later.
Because of excavation.
Yes, inflation and other issues, so I'm just wondering, this just seems to be a project that is out of our control.
Which,
Like,
Control.
the playground,
the town's control in terms of cost.
No, I wouldn't say that, we're partnering with a group that wants to help, you know, raise money to make it an accessible playground. You know, put a port in place surface down so it'll be accessible, there's all, I won't say it's out of our control, the town is still. We're still managing the project, we're just waiting for the fundraising portion of it to come in, which was a request by the Park and Rec Commission, it was actually to form a committee. And then part of this committee was then, an adjunct to that was to actually go and fundraise, so. The Park and
But that
Rec
was
Commission
never
actually-
presented that way.
That may be, but but that, I can only tell you how the project. You know, moved from one aspect to another, the council did ask us to meet with Park and Rec. And then have Park and Rec put together a subcommittee on placement and the materials and all the rest of it.
I
So
don't remember any.
that was part of the, that was one of the reasons for the year delay. So we had to go back to Park and Rec and make sure that the location that we had chosen was the best location throughout the park. So we looked at other areas, down at the pool, a couple of other locations, and then came back to that location. That was a request from the council at the time of the first deferral, when you deferred it the first year. So we did go to Park and Rec, and Park and Rec put together a subcommittee, and then the subcommittee had this aspect associated with it of volunteers willing to fundraise to enhance the project.
But-
Whether or not it trips the document or not, that's not for me to decide, that's your others, you know. At this point in time, and it doesn't mean that it still can't go back and for the council to be, you know, to be included and asked. That's my opinion, but that's not for me to, you know, to make
So
that
maybe we have to
determination.
do that when we discuss.
So.
Alright, so
It's gonna be
may I have a motion to adjourn?
some.
Okay, motion to adjourn.
We saying those dates might work, just wanted to come back to a different date.
Times, I just, if there was some movement between the agenda setting meeting and this meeting, it would be better. Can you start at 12 instead of 12?
12. Have the conservation.
We all have-
We are here physically.
I just.
Oh.
Because
On the board.
I.
So all I had to do was walk down here.
I noticed some struggling.
I thought it was perfect. You know, we'd have an hour, and if there was something that was unanswered, we could just, you know, we could ask, you know, figure that out over the next week or two and answer it with that, you know, that's all. And then all you had to do was walk from here up there, you know, and then you're done. That's what I thought it was pretty elegant at the time, to be honest with you, but, you know.
Alright,
So,
so
yeah, if you wanna, you know, if you wanna think about it, if not, we have time. Cause we try to, you know. but,
And the other thing is you didn't wanna have any meetings during the budget process, and that can't happen.
Well, I can't, but the problem that I have is that I can't present my budget to you without having already presented it to the the first selectman and the board of selectmen, I can't do that.
But that's only January.
That's, no, that's January and February, normally, when we don't give you, we don't sit down
I can't.
until February.
We communicate.
I even wrote in February, normally we probably sit down in
agree,
March.
but
In
we.
February, we sit down with with you and the Board of Finance. But I can't go, what would happen, this is what I foresee was, I put together my budget for Deanna to review, right, so that's in November. You ask me about my budget, I can't answer, right, then in December, I'm meeting with Deanna, and then in January, I'm meeting with the Board of Selectmen, exact same thing, we don't meet with you during that time, we meet with you after, that's why I said it would be best to go. I even said we'll do 2 meetings for the budget, like February, March.
No, I didn't see February, March, I just saw they were lines up.
It's February, March, and then, excuse me, February, March, and then like May on, or June on, you know, depending upon, because we got our finish. April, May, it's a little funky, right, because of that's you're finalizing your budget, and then the next month we have, this year we had the bond issuance or the authorization, which in April, which is, you know, which, so, you know, I can look back on it again and say, okay, well, we started, well, this is May, so I thought, well, May on to November, and then 2 times in February and March, once in February, once in March, and I just couldn't meet in basically in December, January range, because it's gonna put me in a spot where I can't talk about a budget that you have, that she hasn't vetted and the Board of Selectmen hasn't vetted, because we've never done that before. The moment that the Board of Selectmen say that it's okay, it's the moment we come to the interest.
I understand all that, I still think we need to meet February, March.
February, March is fine, I don't have a
Okay.
problem with that, because that's budget, that's almost, that's the whole reason for the
Exactly,
committee. But the problem with that, it was more the December, January, and then.
that's not the
And
problem.
then the April one was when we're meeting anyways.
Right,
In front of
April.
them anyways,
And then you wanted to skip August,
because you skip August, one of the summers.
when we're lucky, it doesn't always happen, but we're skipping August.
I went by your agenda stand,
Yeah,
it skipped August, so I skipped August.
Okay.
That was it.
August, September, October, November, and then
So
we
it's
skip
like-
December, skip January.
Then February, March, skip April, come back to June, come back to May, and then go May, June, July. So you get 3
Okay.
off, 3
Okay,
off, 2.
okay, and there would be, if there's any extensive projects or proposals, it would be said in addition to another meeting. Or you would provide the information.
That's, I'd say that's.
That is, if for now it's not enough to go over whatever it is, then we would set up another meeting. But to that question is, this is set, you have the drawings. We know what we're buying basically,
Yeah.
whether the number has to be adjusted or not. So with most projects, you're always describing a concept rather than hard drawings. My
At the
question,
time of the budget, yeah,
right,
time of the budget, yes.
so I want you to consider planning ahead and starting plans for something with the approval of town council. So when you come to us with a budget, it's more concrete in terms of.
I've already done, so, you know,
Good for you.
some of it is very simple, as far as paving goes, it's very simple.
No, the paving is irrelevant, it's a totally different animal than an actual building or project.
So that just get, that gets down to timing, we've had that discussion before, but yeah, it's more on the,
She said. First off, you're staying in Paris. Right. And he said.
Huh?
That's the one to.
Why you were in the airplane? This is still on?